Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com.
What is the law if one left a Gentile or non-religious Jew with access to your kitchen alone for a considerable amount of time? Does your kitchen become treif? Do the utensils, cookingware, and appliances need to now be kashered due to suspicion that it was used for non-kosher food? Or are there any leniencies that can be applied? So as we discussed in the previous halacha, it is recorded in the Rishonim and the Poskim Balei Shulchanaruch that it is forbidden lechatchila to leave a Gentile alone in your home, and the same applies with a non-religious Jew unless you are Yetzav Nichnas going in and out, and thus give them fear to do anything wrong. Otherwise it is forbidden, and now the question is, well, you did so, now what do we do? What's the deal with this kitchen? Is the kitchen still kosher or not? So this question was addressed to the Igros Moshe in Yeridea, Volume 3, Tshuva 61, and is likewise addressed directly in the Shulchan Aruch in the same source of discussion of the Lichatchila. They discuss likewise the case of Bedieved, that one transgressed and left the Gentile along with one's vessels. What is one to do? And the answer is not simple at all. We have three different opinions recorded on now what would be the status of one's kitchen, and from this alone we can already understand how serious of a halachic issue it is to go ahead and leave your kitchen alone with a Gentile or non-religious Jew for a considerable amount of time. But first and foremost, before we go into the three different approaches in halacha and how to now paskin on your kitchen and what the final arbitration is, let us first clarify that in all cases, everyone agrees that the question of your kitchen's kasher status is only held in question if this Gentile or non-religious Jew was left alone in your kitchen for a considerable amount of time, such as half a day. So writes the Mordechai, and as is recorded in the Ramah. However, if he was left only for a few hours, then even though the Chatchila you weren't allowed to do so, as we already learned, unless you were coming in and out constantly, nonetheless, B'di'evid, we don't suspect that within that short amount of a few hours, you went ahead and treifed up your kitchen. So this entire shaila of what is the status of your kitchen, in which we have three different approaches in the Poskim, only begins to apply if at least half a day passed since the Gentile was left alone in your kitchen, and now you want to know what to do. A second important clarification is that even in the event that you did leave the Gentile alone in your kitchen for a considerable amount of time, half a day and more, the question of the kashrus of your kitchen is only applicable to those vessels which are commonly used with hot foods, such as pots. However, those vessels that are not commonly used with hot food, such as your cups and your cutlery, forks, spoons, and knives, which are usually not used for a kli rishon hot food, but only for kli sheni or cold, these vessels avoid the question, as even if the guy used them for cold treif or kli sheni treif, what's the problem? No taste of the treif has gotten absorbed in your vessel that would require it to be kashered anyways. The one exception to this is regarding wine goblets, cups that are designated specifically for use of drinking wine. Today cups are used for all purposes, but back then there were special wine cups designated for that purpose. And since it's possible the guy used it for yayin esech, it would enter into the question of what now do we do about this cup, even though the wine is cold. And the answer, the three opinions. One opinion is very extreme, your entire kitchen is treif, which means that all metal vessels that are kasherable must be kashered, while earthenware vessels that are not kasherable must be destroyed. So is the ruling of the Bach, and so is implied from the Mordechai and the Issa V'Heter. The good news I'll already mention now to calm everyone down is we don't rule like this opinion. The second approach is the opposite extreme, that b'di'evid everything's fine. The entire issue is only lechatchila that you shouldn't do so, because perhaps he's going to cook non-kosher food. But b'di'evid we don't suspect for isurim le'machzikin and isura, and therefore your kitchen remains kosher b'di'evid. No worries. So is the implied ruling of the Mechaber in the Shulchan Aruch in 119.12 and 122.9, and so learns the Aruch HaShulchan in 122.18 in the opinion of the Mechaber. And indeed, for Sfardim, this would be an extra equation for leniency upon them bringing this question to a Rav. However, practically, as Ashkenazim, we rule like the third approach, which is not as extreme in stringency as the first, and not as extreme in leniency as the second, but rather takes a compromising approach. And that is as follows. Within 24 hours from this occurrence, your kitchen is considered as its treif, and you cannot cook anything in your kitchen within those 24 hours. So if I left the maid at home from 7 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, while everyone was out of the house, one went to work, went to the school, etc., I have to wait 24 plus hours starting from 7 o'clock, meaning I cannot use my kitchen until at least 7 o'clock the next day. And plus, the Ramah writes we add a little bit more, so it's about 24 and a half hours. So until about 7:30 a.m. the next day, I cannot use my kosher kitchen for cooking or with any hot foods. And if one went ahead and cooked in one's pots within the 24 hours, the food is considered treif. However, after 24 hours have passed, your entire kitchen now becomes kosher and is able to be used, just like before. This third approach is the approach of the Ramah in chapter 122, halacha 9, and so concur the Shach, the Taz, and the Mordechai, and other poskim. And the basis of this heter is that within 24 hours it's a pure suffix, and suffix is the chumrah. Maybe they cooked non-kosher food in your pot, maybe they didn't. But once 24 hours have passed, it's only a suffix derabanan. As once 24 hours have passed from the original use, the pot becomes what's called eine ben yemei pagum, and it's only rabbinically forbidden. And thus, in a case of doubt, we are lenient. Although the Taz states on this a little bit of a stringent approach, that those vessels that can be kosher should be kosher, as we never rely on a suffix or sfex feka initially when we can do something about it, practically the Gusmation is previous mentioned Shuva rule to the individual that after 24 hours have passed, they may be lenient to use all their vessels and kitchenware without koshering them beforehand, as is the ruling of the Ramah. Practically, to summarize this halacha, as we've already mentioned in the previous class on this subject, lechatchila, it's completely forbidden to leave a Gentile or non-religious Jew alone with access to your kitchen for a considerable amount of time. And one who does so enters his kitchen into a serious kashrus question. In the event that this was done, and now the question is being asked, what is the status of my kitchen? The final arbitration is that within 24 hours from this occurrence, the kitchen has to be considered treif, and all vessels commonly used with hot foods may not be used with hot foods, and certainly you can't cook in them until after 24 hours. Once slightly more than 24 hours have passed, practically we rule that your entire kitchen now becomes kosher, as usual, as before, without any restriction, even though there are some poskim more stringent, even in such a case. For any further direction and clarification in these matters, one is to contact thereof and receive and follow their directives. For a Chacham of Bereishai, this should be avoided to begin with, and people should not enter them into this situation, which confuses themselves, the Rav, and their kitchen.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at Shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.